Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Jurassic Zoological Garden, and today we are going to build a habitat for the mighty Microceratus. So let's get started. For this episode I really wanted to build for a small herbivore again, and I had a couple of species that I wanted to build for, but in the end I decided for the Microceratus simply because the base structure I've built at the beginning was a little bit too small for the other species that I was thinking for. So placing the Microceratus, which is really tiny, was just a perfect fit for this habitat. And also this time I wanted to kind of build in like a fun shape. As you can see, we have this like wavy like barrier. I saw this in a picture I took as an inspiration and I really wanted to recreate it. At first I was a little bit skeptical on how I could actually accomplish this, but actually just using this rounded concrete wall piece that we have and then disconnecting the singular pieces from the group each time just gave me a little bit more flexibility with placing them down. So this just worked like a charm, honestly. And then the back of the habitat is just like a plain square. I don't really mind it that it is a blank square with like concrete walls. I just feel like it just looks quite nice still. And for the zoo we are not building like really fancy, super fancy buildings or habitats, so building it relatively simply made quite sense to me. And if you remember the habitat for the oviraptor we did, this was also quite simple when it came to the base structure, and this habitat is actually located relatively close to the oviraptor. There will be a little bit of space in between them, so I will still fit some habitats or maybe one bigger habitat in between. But actually we are slowly coming to an end with this whole series of Jurassic Zoological Garden, which I'm also kind of happy because I really want to start something new, but I definitely wanted to finish off this building or this whole project first. So I feel like it's slowly coming all together. We still have room for maybe like 2, 3, maybe 4 habitats, depending what species I'm gonna add and how large the habitats are going to be. But we can definitely see the end of the street here, and I'm really excited. Also, I'm also super excited to then actually finally upload this whole park to the workshop, because in the last couple of weeks my videos have gained quite a lot of like traction and views and comments, which I'm extremely happy for. We are also, by the way, super close to reaching 2,000 subscribers here on YouTube, which I'm also super happy. Also my TikToks are getting more views, some people are on my Discord and we are chatting there, so everything just comes together super nicely, which I'm super happy for. But this also means that getting more comments, that a lot of people are asking me to upload things on the workshop, or if I have uploaded my buildings to the workshop, and I wanted to make like a little address to that, though I would love to upload some stuff on the workshop, especially my habitats. I've done this a lot with Planet Zoo, but in Jurassic World Evolution 3, the blueprinting system is not the same as in Planet Zoo. And what this means is that I cannot upload a full habitat in the same sense as I would have been able to in Planet Zoo, because I could just click the barrier and then everything that is connected to this barrier was uploaded as a whole blueprint. Also the terraforming, body of waters and such. And this is not the same with Jurassic World Evolution 3. Here I can upload like a bunch of, let's just say, structures that I've placed down, but the terraforming will not be included. I can upload habitats, but I cannot click just the barrier and then upload everything to the workshop. So what this means is, if I have a little bit of terraforming in my habitat, same as like in this building that I'm doing right now, you will not be having this whole terraforming in the blueprint as I have in my original build. So you will have all of the pieces, but you will need to do the terraforming on your own. And I think this would be quite finicky. I feel like that blueprints should be just be able to place down, especially if it is whole habitats. So I unfortunately cannot upload my habitats to the workshop. Also, the thing with the biodome that I did, the big aviary for the Pyroraptor and the Cearadactylus, I could not upload it because it had more than 5,000 pieces. So there's simply also the piece count that is hindering me to upload some stuff on the workshop. Though I do have like a few things on there, like for example the restaurant from my Dimetrodon building, or like some smaller pieces. Also, I uploaded the raised walkway as kind of a set, so you can rebuild this of your own from my biodome. So you will have like the beginning of the walkway or the end of it, like one raised piece of it, then the corners and such, and also the supportive beams. So you can build your own walkway in your aviary, in your habitats and such. But I will not be able to upload the whole habitats. So I'm also super excited to then be able to upload the whole park, because then you can enjoy at the whole park with all the terraforming, with all of the different pieces. So you can just walk around there, see everything, maybe blueprint some singular pieces for yourself that you want to copy in your own park. So there you can individually make your own blueprints from my park. So I am also super excited to upload it, and let me know what you think about playing in my park that I've built. Now actually talking about what I am doing in this video at the moment. At the beginning I placed down the basic structure of the habitat, so the concrete barrier with these waves in the front, and I also placed down a fence in the front so that the guests are a little bit more away from the concrete barrier. This is simply from the inspirational picture that I took for this habitat. So I tried to really recreate the habitat that I saw in this picture. So this is also why I placed certain things into the habitat. For example, this big, I would say, island of like fallen logs and foliage I have on the right side with this big fallen down tree is pretty much the same as in the picture. And what I wanted to do for this habitat is it is quite grassy. It is a really temperate biome habitat. We are in a temperate biome, or the whole zoo is in a temperate biome, so I thought this would also fit quite nicely. And I wanted to use the new rocks that we have from the latest update, or from the Rebirth expansion pack, and they are right below the tropical rocks, so they are actually in the same tab. But you will see that in the rocks tab it's normally like from the smallest rocks to the biggest ones, and then right underneath there will be again smaller rocks and some bigger rocks. So these are the new rocks, and I just really like the structure. They are almost the same as the tropical ones, but still a little bit different, and I would say even better. I don't know what exactly it is, but I just really like them. They look super realistic, so I definitely wanted to use them in this habitat too. I feel like the temperate biome rocks wouldn't fit super well in here, so I really wanted to use these brownish rocks. So what I did, I placed down a few of bigger rocks that I technically not necessarily saw in the picture, but I wanted to give the habitat a little bit of structure. But since we have a really tiny species in here, I was really cautious with placing down the rocks, as they would really hinder the animals from walking around in their habitat. So I did focus to just place a little bit here and there to just break up the big open areas, and then I slowly started to build this big island of foliage that we have around this fallen log. And in the inspirational picture there was also this fallen log, and then some upright like broken down trees, I would say. So they didn't really have any foliage or any bigger branches on them, and it was actually for some sort of climbing species. I could not tell from the picture itself, but so I basically just removed these climbable parts of this whole thing and leave it like I wanted it to have for this habitat. And then I wanted to have this one big tree that is really lush but not super large in the back, and then also some like really grassy bushy foliage. I couldn't really find a sort of bush that I wanted to use, so I did use some bamboo to have a little bit of height, and then also this big grass piece that we have, and I actually stacked it on top of each other to give it a little bit more of height. And then I slowly started adding some smaller plants. I really took a close look at the photo that I had and tried to find pieces in the game that look really similar to also use them for this habitat. So I slowly built up this island from like the main focal points, like this big fallen log and these upright trees without any branches, and then the big foliage pieces like the trees and big bushes, and then slowly started to go down from the size of the foliage, and then use a very few of these small plants to give just a little bit of a highlight or a little bit more of a difference in the whole foliage theme, and I feel like this really came together. I also use a couple of plants that I normally don't really use, and now that we can finally do a favorite step, which was also included in the latest update, I can actually then favorize these plants that I really like to use and that look really good, so I can go back to them and actually remember to use these, as sometimes, especially since I can't really remember the names of the pieces, especially plants, the favorite step will really help me, and I will slowly start building like a whole catalog of building pieces and plants that I love to use, and then I can simply go into my favorites and find them very easily. For the rest of the habitat, I basically redid this like island technique, I would say, around these bigger rocks that I placed down. So this also gives myself kind of like a system on where to place certain things. So what I did was basically the same as for the big island, but at a much smaller scale. Talking about my island technique for foliage, I was thinking about filming a couple of tutorials next couple of weeks. I feel like I've never really done a lot of tutorials, but I definitely want to get more into that. So you guys can definitely let me know down in the comments what tutorials you would like to see, so I have a couple of more ideas of what to film in the next couple of weeks. And since we got a bunch of new decal pieces with the Rebirth expansion pack, I definitely wanted to also use a couple of these. With the inspirational picture I had, the back wall was also really weathered, really old, I would say, maybe even a little bit dirty, so it did have quite a lot of structure and different colors on it. So this was also the perfect opportunity to use definitely more decals that I usually do. I feel like decals just make such a big difference, especially if you look at these concrete walls. They are quite barren, they are really simple, but placing down a couple of decals just give it so much more dimension and more structure, and it just looks much more interesting. So I can never tell people enough to use more decals. I myself sometimes need to remember to use some more decals. So with this habitat I really went quite heavy with them. So I used a bunch of different like dirt and moss decals, and I even used the rust decal. I feel like on the concrete wall it does look quite nice, even though it is rust, it still looks more like dirt in this particular scenery, I would say. So I feel like this does make such a difference and doesn't make the habitat look so blank or so barren. Also, I almost forgot with this habitat that we also have a decal piece which is called jungle debris, I believe. So this is basically just leaf litter in like a really greenish tone. I love the leaf litter that we had in Planet Zoo with one of the latest DLCs, and I just love to use it all around because it just gives it so much more like a natural look than, because surely if we have a bunch of like trees and foliage, then there would also be a bunch of leaves on the ground. So I was really missing it in Jurassic World Evolution 3. But now that we have the jungle debris, we can kind of have this look with this greenish leaves that are laying on the floor. And in the very end, I also added a couple of them around the habitat. You can almost not see them as the habitat is quite lush and has a lot of grasses, but in this little water area that I'm also building right now, I also placed the leaf litter in there. So it looks like the dinosaurs are slowly carrying a little bit of dirt and a little bit of leaves in there. Also, the wind would just naturally blow in some leaf litter into the water. So I feel like this just gives it such a really nice look. And to build this little water area, I wanted to have almost only like a little water bowl, but I was not quite sure how to actually build it or what pieces to use. So I decided to have this little water area that the dinosaurs could even bathe in. And so I placed down these like water fountain pieces that we have and recolored the like pebbles that are in there a little bit, and then just place down a little barrier around it. I use the chukum walls. I just feel like they look quite natural, and as they're a little bit more rounded, it just looks much nicer. And to have the water actually flowing in there, I used this dinosaur in the egg fountain piece and lowered it down into the wall and just used some sort of pipe or some metal piece, so the nose of the dinosaur is not actually sticking out, but it looks more like the water is coming out of a hose or out of a pipe from the wall and then flowing in there. And I feel like this actually does look quite nice. I think the dinosaurs would actually enjoy a little bath in there too. And since I wanted to have a small species in here, I was really debating on adding the Aquilops in here, which was also part of the Rebirth expansion pack. And I truly really love this little dinosaur. I just think it's really cute, even though it does look like really undersized compared to all of the other species. I feel like this whole game is kind of laid out for big dinosaurs, so most of the pieces that we have don't really fit for like really tiny species, and I was debating on adding it in here, but I feel like, or I think that I have a better idea for the species, and this will be added in my next Jurassic World Evolution 3 project that I'm going to build. As you might know, I still also have the high security project. I will continue on building on this one too, but I am also slowly planning the next like regular zoo for this game, and I feel like the Aquilops would have a much better habitat in this one. Also, I feel like this project is really nice, but I want to have the next one even better, even more detailed and more realistic, and I feel like the Aquilops just deserves more, so I really wanted to add it in my next zoo, that I want to give even a little bit more love and more passion into it than in this project. For the housing for the Microceratus, I did just a really tiny, really simple like backstage area. I don't really pay attention too much to these buildings. I still want to have them just to add the realism into my parks, but I don't really go super overboard with these backstage pieces. I feel like most of you guys also don't really care too much about these backstage areas in this game. At least this is what I knew from a couple of people that were commenting, that they don't really care about it. So I also don't want to waste too much time into these. Maybe I am going to be a little bit more detailed in the next park, but for this one I feel like just giving the hint that there is something in the back where the dinosaurs go in, and this staff can go in to care for the dinosaurs, to prepare food and such, and to store their utensils. I feel like this is actually more than enough. And this is the finished result of the Microceratus habitat. Let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed this episode and that you like the way I designed this habitat, and leave a like if you did. Don't forget to subscribe so you're not missing out any more videos from Jurassic World Evolution 3 on my channel. I will now leave you with the last cinematic shot so you can enjoy the finished result of the Microceratus habitat, and I'm already saying my goodbyes and hope to see you in the next video. Until then, bye guys!